So the way of the empath. Welcome to the channel, The Way of the Empath. And I have videos I'm continuing to upload on what it actually is to be an empath, what are the differences really, and actual similarities, but for different reasons, that the empath does certain things that look just like what a narcissist does. Like, for example, empaths have to move around a lot, and narcissists do as well, but they're for different reasons. They're like for opposite reasons. The reason empaths move around a lot is because of the energy. People get very attached to our energy and they want to cling. And there's also this it's almost like I would say it is this, but because people are not aware of their subconscious, they don't realize that they're clinging. Like, it's a subconscious pull that they have towards the empath, and because of it, they basically want to, they want to control their connection with the empath, meaning they want to be close to the empath, and they try to follow the empath around. And so empaths have a lot of stalkers. I know this because I have at any given time probably 10 stalkers that are always looking to find ways to take my energy. They do it in lots of very ingenious ways, like just showing up randomly and saying hello, or sending a text message, or sending a phone, making a phone call, or it will be from the levels, there's a spectrum here, from the levels of very toxic, like basically trying to engage me in a battle, or like trying to basically get me to, even I'll give you an example. Even if someone just like pulls in front of my car, like randomly right at last minute, on a subconscious level, that person wants to take my energy, because if they do something like that, they put me in danger, or those in the car with me in danger, and then I'm going to be having to deal with that in some way or another, whether it is I just have to put on the brakes really suddenly. And there's always, people are always trying to get a reaction. But what I want to remind, because the reaction is how they link in, they latch in, and then they suck energetically. So, but what I think is really important about this, and this is really a key with being an empath, is that, so the empath is, like, you could say, is the emotional vagabond. So I'm going to touch on a lot of different pieces of being an empath, and I think over time I'll start to refine them, because one of the things I've noticed about a lot of channels out there is that people tend to define an empath a lot of the time incorrectly, and then people who are really in their shadow will talk negatively about an empath. They will describe an empath really as a codependent. Let me be really clear. Empaths are not in any way, shape, or form a codependent. A codependent can become an empath, but what it takes to become an empath is to master healing. So the first thing is to heal yourself, and it's impossible to truly be an empath while not being healed. It doesn't mean that in any given moment when the empath is in the process of having to transmute karma around them, like negativity from other people, in order to protect themselves, like what I'm dealing with right now with sneezing, for example. But the empath has to, like, go lots of different places, and they are better off in areas where people are more focused on the spiritual, because at least then maybe, and I'm not talking about the fake spiritual. I'm not talking about people who pretend they're spiritual because they have a Buddha statue in their house or something like that. No, I'm talking about people who genuinely understand what spirituality is about. They understand that it's different. Being spiritual is the ultimate dimension to ourselves. It's the 7th chakra. It is the aspect of our nature that truly understands all of the other dimensions. And in order to be spiritual, we have to have all of the lower dimensions strong. Now, we can look at our charts and see that, like our natal chart, and see where we might have more of a dominant trait. We can look at how our sorry, I'm just looking at I'm driving right now. We can look at how people with earth, a lot of earth in their charts, for example, are generally not empaths. In fact, they're less empathic in general than others, because their focus is so on materialistic gain because of that earth sign energy. Like, for example, if you have like no earth in your chart, usually that means that you've already mastered the earth sign, because when there's a dominant sign, unless it's in the sun, and I'm speaking more from being a professional astrologer myself, depending on where it is in your chart, because you want to know your chart well enough, and we do offer chart readings. That will be another video that I'll describe how to read the chart. But basically, the empath is even if the chart looks different depending on the person who's reading it and thinks, oh, that person can't be an empath, it's really about the circumstances of one's life and the depth of the desire to heal. Like, people who actually become empaths, master healers, they are people who really do want to heal. That's a very important piece. They want to heal, and they're always seeking healing. Like, no matter what happens to them, the most important thing for them is to get to a place where they're healed. So if there's a challenging situation that we have to overcome, we're always working on getting ourselves back to the feeling of knowing, of being who we are. Because, like, I will experience when people's negative energy comes at me, and it comes at me all day long. You know, like, people do this because they're very, very desperate. And different times of year, they're more desperate than others. Like right now, because we're coming up into a solar eclipse, and it's a very challenging time for many people emotionally. And then you have on top of it, like where I am right now, the weather's really bad. They say that there's going to be a storm, like even snow, even this time of year. And it's all based on this ego war between the narcissists, which are like the devils, and the empaths, which are the angels. And I would say narcs are devils. Like, they're the evil bosses, like in the video games. You have to have a lot of love. And the empath is very fearless and very much full heart, and they have a lot of strength. And they have to face these, you know, demonic forms. And demons are within each individual who contracts out with them. And a demon is a contract with an evil spirit based on a sin that's repeated, that becomes a friend. Like, for example, if you're an alcoholic and that's your friend, is the alcohol, is the bottle. And any time that you feel like you need a friend, that's what you go to. You go to drinking. And it's a demon. That addiction to alcohol is a demon. But the demon didn't come necessarily from the alcohol. The demon feeds off of the alcoholic addiction. The demon came when you decided that you weren't going to talk anymore about how you feel. You weren't going to be sociable. You were going to be an antisocial person, like a sort of a sociopathic type person. And that the only time you would ever open your throat and communicate, fifth chakra, then you would basically do it because you would do it because you were drunk, or you were under the influence. So this is why, in order to overcome that particular kind of demon, you have to open up your throat. It won't be enough just to quit alcohol. You have to be willing, and this is why the 12-step program is so strong, because it really helps you to communicate the things that's bothering you about that, having that experience of, like, having your throat closed. And I'm thinking of someone in particular right now who's really in a desperate kind of rock bottom place right now. They're really, you could say they're sort of fighting their demons, but they're also kind of not. because the people they hang out with are all lowlifes as well. And I've mentioned this person's name a bunch, so I think people already know who they are. But you know, this is just one and many, because many people are going through this right now. And I mean, there's many alcoholics out there. Okay, it's not like this is the only one. This is just one that continues to be depraved and desperately, you know, asking for help. But this person has like a lot of addictions, not just one. But I think that this is where, you know, is someone who has that level of narcissism. They really do have to release those things, and they cannot grab onto the foot of that narcissist can't grab onto the foot of Kali and ask Kali to grab them and guide them. It's not possible. Kali will kick the crap out of them. It's not like you can just go with Goddess Kali when you're not willing to do the work. And this is a fight. It's a war between darkness and light. But it's happening inside of people, because to the degree of your empathy is to the degree of your light. To the degree of your addictions and your hate and gossip and ugliness, you know, those nasty, bad emotions, and how much you're doing those things, to the degree of your darkness. And that's the narcissist, you know, and everyone has varying degrees of that. And some people have a lot more light, some people have a lot more darkness, and everywhere in between. But to be an empath is really, really important to understand that this is not something that you might find yourself in the moment feeling how it feels to be an empath for like a moment, or if you're around an empath, you might get an opportunity to feel their energy and it's like, wow, I would love to be like that. But then, or maybe you that would be an advanced person, just go, oh wow, I'd love to be like that. And somebody who's like lower would be like, oh, let me take that, let me grab that, let me steal it, let me snuff it out, let me kill it, you know, stuff like that. But to somebody who'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing, I want that, how do I do that? That's someone who's like gonna benefit. But so the empath, this is why as an empath we have to constantly be moving. We can't actually stay anywhere very long. And like an avadut, and avadut is a name of like a wandering sadhu in India. Like as an avadut, because empath has to like also be like the avadut, because it's how we do our lives. Like we have to practice like an avadut. So we have to go somewhere every 3 days. And when I was I was a monastic, I was a renunciate for a number of years, and I traveled a lot in India. And I remember that in India it was different. I was very sick, not sick like the way that other people get sick, like, but I always felt my energy was low, even though I was doing a lot and I had high energy in a sense of like I'm climbing the mountains and I'm experiencing my divine mother side and everyone's calling me Ma and I'm being flocked to and this and that. But I could feel the energy itself of the area was very dense, even though everyone was quite spiritual in the sense of like they wanted. And I even noticed there, people were always telling me, Ma, just go, Ma, go. And I'd be like, okay, and I just kept walking. But it's like you have in India, and I don't mean to digress here and talk about something else, but in India, like we have this understanding about of like, you know, the guru is so important there, but the problem with that is that in India, people rely too much on the guru. They're too demanding energetically on the guru. So that's another reason I wasn't allowed to be in India that much. So the main thing with the empath and what we see is we see that the world is not the world's not a very healthy place, okay? Just to be honest, it's a very sick place. People are very sick. They're very desperate. There's a lot of the image on the outside is a lot like everyone's trying to like posture. And there's a lot of sort of optical illusions about how things are going in people's lives. And you know, you might have someone who, for example, like a Capricorn type person, and from the outside they look like they have a lot, you know, they have like material, nice material things and stuff like that, but then like when you get to know them, there's like, even in a few minutes an empath could figure this out, there's like this shallowness and this heaviness because they focus so much of their life on materialism. And I'm generalizing here because there's a lot of spiritual Capricorns out there, and especially now that Pluto transit has ended, so Capricorns are now being required for the next 16 years to put all those things they learned during Pluto transit into practice. So they have to become those highly spiritual people. They have to really walk the talk. They can't just pretend to anymore. No imposter syndrome there. So it's there's this change, you know, with empaths are very much aware of things energetically. Like, I know when things are already going to change, or I know it before the astrology and all that. But I use those things as like the language of the psyche. I use the astrology to help people to understand their own mind better, or why their life is going a certain way. So they have some kind of guideposts, you know. But generally the way I live is very simple, you know, like I don't own a lot of things. That was something I had to learn the hard way because I was very wealthy at one time. Actually, during the time I was transiting into full empath, I had a lot of money. That was actually good, and it's not like I don't have financial wealth. It's just different in a sense of like ownership, because having a lot of things at this day and age with the climate of how people are, with so much darkness and people, you know, the empath knows that we just see things as they are. We don't see things as we would like to see them. We see things really as they are. So when we feel deeply a love for like our animals, for example, like right now I'm very worried. Whenever it rains, it worries me, the animals and them being able to stay warm through the night. And I'm heading on my way over to feed some wild turkeys because I know they're going to really need it to keep themselves warm. And so that's, you know, I'm driving all this way, and it costs money to do all this, and then it costs money to like buy all the seeds, and I spend a lot of money on bird seeds. Like every day or every other day I'm spending like $20 on animal feed, and that's my bird feed, and that's for a reason, is because like I have all these animals that like they rely on me and they love me, and they need my help, because you know, from the empath view, you know, what I see is that how I see the world, and this is so important, is because it's not, there's no sugar coating on this world. Like there's no, I need to take a drug, or I need to take this, or I need to even eat. Like there's never that. Like I barely eat. Like it's like once, I mean, lately it's been like, I haven't even had a meal for over a month, like a full meal. I might have a little bite here and there of something, like, but that's how it is to be me at this stage. And so it's like I have to be on it, and I have to be on it, like I have to be willing to like see all the different things that are happening and be aware. And I'm keeping track of, like, I'm managing people, like on a much bigger scale. I'm managing people, and the ego, the king ego, which is like really lower level consciousness, before we awaken and we become truly awake, meaning like we've reached at least ground zero of consciousness, which is we broke through the ego. We broke through all that belief that we've mastered all these planes of awareness and consciousness. No, we're really humble. An empath is incredibly humble. And what I mean by humble is humble like humus, it means soil. Like we're really connected to our bodies. We're really connected to what's happening around us in the world. We're really connected to the experience of being human, you know, and serving others. And even though for me, human animals are the most difficult of all animals, because they're so out of touch with their bodies. They're so out of touch with nature. Even where I am, where there's a lot of nature and it's everywhere, people are still very, very out of touch. I go into people's homes and I'm like, oh my God, like how do they live like this? Even just to look at what people eat is like, oh my God, it's just insane that they actually put that stuff in their body. Like, I'm like, how do you dare? Like, that would kill me. Because it's like we refine ourselves so much. And I went from, I ate animals as a child. My parents went from being vegetarian, then they ate meat for a little while, and I had meat up until, I knew at age 8 that it was wrong. Like, I knew in my own heart that something wasn't right, even though these were hunted animals. My family lived very, very close to the earth in that way, but I was against that. I could just feel that there was something wrong about it. And this is the basis to being an empath, is that you cannot eat animal products and be an empath. It's impossible, because when you start, your empathy develops over time. The empath is someone who has mastered emotional intelligence. So we're like the genius of emotional intelligence, right? And in the interim, like during the process of like developing emotionally, we start to develop, like, okay, so there's the emotional, the empathy towards ourselves, our body, the empathy towards others, other human animals, or those who are like us, and then all different types of humans. For most people, that's how it starts. And then to animals, and to, going from that to insects and other, and to the universe, and to every, to the full earth, understanding the earth itself as a living being. It expands. Our empathy, which is our heart, expands to all these different levels. Now, what's a really important piece here that just came to my mind, and it's like a big warning sign, like I have these big caution signs in my head, like I really have to explain this about empaths. I think it's so, so important that people understand this about empaths. There is the term of toxic compassion, or you could say, like idiot. I mean, the Dalai Lama calls it idiot compassion, but like, it's basically the false compassion of like, I'm going to be nice no matter what, because that's a controlled ego trip. That's controlled. Like, an empath, when they're around bad people, like, they feel it and they could become bad. Like, I feel when I'm around someone, like, so my energy field goes out really far from my body, like at least a mile in all directions. At least. I mean, I can feel the whole world sometimes. Sometimes I'm feeling it 50 miles out. It kind of comes back in sometimes if I have to contract it because I'm feeling, oh no, or we're under threat like I knew a month before, and that's my energy outward of like the whole 9/11 thing. I knew about a lot of different things, and I still continue to know about these things, because this is part of how I protect the planet, is to have this expansive auric field. And it's really, really, really expansive. And it's not, this is, again, like, for anyone who's getting jealous because I'm telling them this, please, like, don't, okay? It's hard to do this. If you had to hold up what it is I hold up, you wouldn't be able to do it. It's so painful. It's so difficult. It's not like wanting to do that, but then the work that it takes is like, please, like, envy is not a smart choice, because you could never hold this kind of energy up if you really had to do all the work. You wouldn't want it. For most people, you wouldn't want that. I mean, for me, it was sort of shoved on me by life, because I had already a lot of the blueprint of an empath, and I just didn't like feeling bad. I didn't like the feeling of feeling bad, and that's how I started to heal myself. It's like, I don't want to feel that. When I am around really dark people, I feel their darkness, like it's immediate. And that darkness, now this is what happens when an empath crosses like a narcissist, for example. Because a narcissist has this demonic, really dark, wicked, hateful energy. It's very aggressive, very rageful. The empath can feel that. Like, I'll just explain personally what happens. So it comes into my energy field, I feel it, and I'm like, and usually I can release it, but like, if that person is physically around me, they feel like a major threat against their energy, because they're used to being evil, they're used to being dark. It like immediately shoves all their darkness in their face, and they're like, oh my God, that's not me. Because most dark, like in a sense of evil people, not skin tone, guys, okay? Dark, meaning like energy, because even a dark person, black skin or dark skin, can have a lot of light in them, and you can see it shining through their skin. It's their light, right? It has nothing to do with skin color, guys, okay? But like, so when I say dark, I'm talking about energy. I'm not talking about skin tone. Let me be very clear there, okay? So when this happens, it can be very dangerous, and this is one of the reasons why I get so careful. Now, but there's a silver lining to all of this, okay? Every time I have to interact with evil people, and there are times that people who hide their evil comes up more magnified during like this upcoming solar eclipse or the last lunar eclipse that just happened, you know, on the 25th of March. Like, we're just about to have a solar eclipse on the 8th, where what happened emotionally in March will then become a physical reality in the solar eclipse in April, right? The April 8th. So there's this time of transformation. Now, the other thing about being an empath, and believe me, there's a ton of stuff. I could go hours about this, okay? I'm going to try to, like, keep this reading. Oh, my God, I'm already up to 25 minutes. Okay, I'll go just a little longer, and then I'll make another one. Is that when someone with darkness hits the light, like the light is of the empath, it triggers their darkness. They have a chance to see something in themselves that they don't like, but they usually, the first thing they do is they strike out at the empath. They blame the empath. And what happens then is, if I choose to, I may say something. Sometimes I just walk away, or try to. Sometimes they try to grab me and force me to stay. But no matter what, the energy exchange is in that moment, that person has a moment of awareness, of clarity. And then what happens after that, even if they never see the empath again, is that they're forced, literally forced by life, because that's how their karma has shifted, to be on trial to become better people, okay? Now, the thing about the empath, and this is what makes it so hard to be a true empath, like consistently for many years. Like for me, it's been since 2007, okay? So by 2027, it'll be 20 years. So I'm going up into like, what, 17 years now, I think, or something, because it's 2024, yeah. Okay? Because it's like 7 and 7 is 14, yeah. Okay, because, yeah, right. So it's 17 years, okay? Wow, time flies. And why I say that year is because I actually had undergone 16 years like Jesus when he went off to 16 years like Christ, you know, I traveled the world. I went through similar and same in many ways what Jesus went through in order to become an empath. I am not, everyone has their own experience with this, and every one of us is capable of going on this journey. But remember, you have to want it. If you really don't want it with deep desire and you're not willing to put all of your all into it, it's not worth it. Just don't even stay back with the rest of the people, you know, in samsara. Stay in the matrix, you know. So the other thing, there's a lot of layers to this, okay? So we're coming up onto a new moon, okay? And around the last week of the moon, towards the new moon, people have to face a lot of their darkness, okay? They are required to face their darkness. They're required to face their darkness. Meaning that I would say that, okay, they're required to, but their reaction is totally their own, okay? Now, this is really what makes an empath. Again, like I told you guys, you have to want to heal. You have to want it so bad that you're willing to do anything, that's more important than anything else. Like, when I was living in the woods for many years with the animals, when I was going up on Mount Shasta, walking barefoot in the snow, or up in the Himalayan mountains, or to one of the other majestic mountains, just climbing barefoot and like a sadhu and like crazy, or just doing the austerities I did. This was before I actually was a complete empath, when I really did receive from Saint Germain up on Mount Shasta, like, you're done, like the okay, like you can now start healing people. You can now start, and it wasn't like he said you're done. He didn't say go start healing people, because you don't heal people. I mean, in a way, okay, we transmit the energy, okay, But we're not the healing power. The healing power is Great Spirit, it's God, it's Allah, it's whatever name you want to give it, okay? I say Allah just because even though I don't agree with all of the other stuff in the Quran or anything like that, I do know about Sufism, and I've studied it in enough detail with Hafiz and Maulud Das and Omar Khayyam and the poets and some of the dervishes that, and also just with actually being a part of a group, is that people, you know, they understand Allah for Allah, you know, what it means, okay? So I'm not trying to say I'm a Muslim type person, because I'm not. I'm more, when I understand Sufism, I believe this is an empath, okay? We see all religions, unless they're satanic, unless they're wicked, like religion means to return to your origins, therefore one that fits that description. We do focus on taking the very best out of each one, because, like, for example, the sweat lodge, right, the inipi is such an important part of the Native American traditions, right? Or the moon lodge that you sit in when you're menstruating. Like, there's respectful, or the sun dance, right? They're respectful practices. And now I don't agree the sun dance about like tearing the flesh or anything like that. But I understand the meaning, and I do understand the heyoka and all that, okay? Now, but what matters the most, okay, is that as an empath is the same thing as a shaman, is the same thing as a master healer, is the same thing as like a swami, is the same thing as like a you know, just a master, or the same thing as a sensei. I think, I'm pretty sure, maybe not sensei. There are certain names, Shan, like the masters, okay? There's lots of different names for the empath, okay? And this is why there's so few, because even though there's a lot of people who use the name shaman, who use the name medicine man or woman or whatever, it's not the same thing as being a full empath. And this is why this channel exists, okay? This is why I'm starting to upload, because I'm seeing there's so much out there that's just really degrading the whole meaning. And it's the same with twin flames and stuff like that. People say twin flame. They don't understand that you literally have to be an empath to meet your twin flame. You have to be healed first. Yeah, you have to be healed first before you meet your twin flame. So like when people say, oh yeah, my twin flame did this to me and my twin flame did that, it's like, dude, like that's not a twin flame, okay? If you think they are because you're trying to bring out the best in them, you won't meet your twin flame until you're healed, okay? You won't meet them. Now, I know younger people would deny that, and because they love to, like, you know, they want to have, younger people want to believe so badly that them and their delusional drug addict boyfriend are twin flames. And I completely understand why. Because they need hope. They need hope. So I get that part, but I want to be really clear with young people who actually listen to this channel, because it's listening at this point. I'm not going to show my face at this time. I may never, actually. This is a channel where I want people to really receive the word. And I want you guys to, what I'm offering here is the truth. I'm not here to make people happy, okay? I am ultimately here to make people happy, but people have to get past all that is fake in order to find the happiness, okay? So, let me just see how far I've gone. Wow, I'm already into 4 minutes. In my mind for a minute there, I was thinking, oh, okay, I should go up to 40 minutes, but this is how it goes today. You don't have to listen to the whole thing, but you know what? If you genuinely desire to be an empath, this would be the best thing for you. So of my own journey, I'm going to leave that actually for the next video, my journey towards becoming an empath. But I will mention that there is so much fakery out there. And it's not, again, I'm not belittling people here by saying that. I'm just saying that it's not the truth. Like, it's fakery in a sense of that, okay, there might be desperation. Maybe someone has a channel with a lot of people, a large audience, and they just say a bunch of stuff because they're like, oh my God, I need to pay my rent or whatever, or I need to pay for my like plastic surgery, whatever it is, okay? um, there's still desperation in even the highest ranks of people, meaning like not highest ranks, but material ranks. People get desperate. I don't know how many people who have beautiful mansions and they don't have enough money to buy dinner. Okay? Yeah, that's the truth. And then an empath, we see things really as they are. Okay? We see things as they are, meaning that we really don't, like, we don't see things because we want to see them a certain way. Okay? That's codependent level. That's where we're still hoping the world is a beautiful place. We're still hoping that we can hide the fact that someone is really horrible, you know, and that's just, the empath sees the goodness in everyone, and at the same time, we also see that what's not good in them. And the empath does something very unique, okay? And this is why people have a really hard time understanding us, is that we reflect first. An empath reflects first, okay? So we do not project because we don't have any desires, any personal desires. We don't. We might have goals, for example, like, okay, I'm one day going to have this big piece of land and it's going to be for all of this specific reason, and there's going to be these particular type of dwellings on it. But it's not the same thing as having this desire behind it, in a sense of that this all-consuming, I'm going to walk all over everybody to get that. I'm going to do this and that and the other to get it. It's more like, what I have now is all I need. I have these particular birds or these particular little precious animals that I'm taking care of. It may only be one. I may be rehoming that animal. I may be taking care of it and nursing it back from sickness. I'm doing this specific thing for this specific being, right? And it doesn't matter if it's just one little butterfly that I'm saving their life or trying to stitch back their wing for them or something. Like, none of that matters. It's the smallest to the largest. There's no ambition as an empath to, like, there's no ambition. The empath doesn't have ambition in the sense of, look, I want to do such and such. Like, the empath doesn't want to, like, do something. We don't want anything. I mean, okay, we would like to see a happy world. We would like to see people, there is an inner drive to heal people, to get them to their best place. But when it's time to go, we just move on. We don't even think for a second about leaving someone behind. And that's why it's like there's no attachment behind the desire for things. Like, it's like, okay, I desire a world of peace, but there's no attachment behind it. Like, I don't feel like, oh my gosh, if the world doesn't become peaceful tomorrow, I'm just going to self-erupt or something, or, you know, like, that's just never, like, we just are so non-attached, but not in a negative way. But you see, when we're around certain people that are attached, we may appear to be attached because they're projecting that onto us and we are merely reflecting it. So that really is important to clarify that to people, because I think a lot of people don't realize that the first thing we do is reflect. So if someone is like greedy, like, I don't know, someone's showing me like an office and I'm looking at an office and that's like a greedy landlord. I can feel it. They want to get as much money as they want, as they can. To them, money is life, you know. And I can feel that. They might actually think that I'm greedy because of the questions I ask, even though underlying the greed that's on top of the situation, that's not mine, it's theirs because they have made a covenant with it. But because it's part of the connection that we have in that moment, because it's such a strong energy in their energy field, and our energy fields are intertangled in that moment, like interacting, that they're not able to really see us, because what they're seeing is this like sort of layer of greed that they have. And so in a way, they might even be like, oh, okay, so they get this first impression that's wrong, that's completely incorrect about the empath. And we might even go with it, like, okay, because we're not willing to just in a very, we're not going to just start telling them what we see, because the other thing is we see it all and we feel it all and we know it all, and it's all there right in the present moment because we're very present. We're just present. So whatever needs to happen in the present moment, it's like if I'm driving my car and something happens, I have to deal with that right then and there. That's what I'm going to do. And so it's not like I'm going, oh, well, I better not do that. Sometimes I'm required to not stop and pick up a dead deer, or, if the deer is hurting, I might really be late to something very important just because I have to take care of this deer. Or I'll make a phone call and make sure somebody takes care of them or something if it's really important. But generally, the whole premise of being an empath is that you help as many people as you can. But see, the thing about people from their view is they just don't understand the empath, and so they actually think that we want what they want. And that's why it's so hard for people to understand an empath. They just don't get that piece. They really just don't get it, that we're just reflecting, we're reflecting what's around us. And how we know about people, and we know about, well, animals, but animals also are empaths themselves, so it's quite different between empaths and animals of the non-human nature and animals that are humans, because human animals have real problems. They're really unempathetic, whereas animals, like non-human animals, are quite empathetic. And so we choose usually